Hi, my name is Jerry, I'm a fantasy author, and in this short series of videos, I'm trying to give you as much advice as I can about how to write better descriptions for your narratives. If you have ever studied a language in a classroom or similar setting, then I'm pretty sure at some point you were given a homework exercise where you had to look at a photo of a room and then write a series of complete sentences describing what pieces of furniture there are and where each one is. There is a bed in the corner. There is a desk next to the bed. There is a chair under the desk. There is a rug on the floor, and so on and so forth. If that sounds like some descriptions you have read or maybe written yourself, then you have encountered what I call homework syndrome. Descriptions that are so bland, devoid of personality, and utterly formulaic, it feels like they were written out of obligation. Okay, fine, I'll set the scene. There's this, and there's this, and there's this. Can we go to dialogue now? Now, that's not to say that's your actual attitude, but even if you're trying to make an earnest attempt, it can be kind of daunting to get started with descriptions because it's just not as intuitive as dialogue. Dialogue is something that we do every day and have lots of experience with, whereas descriptions are the more, let's say, noticeably artistic part of writing, and very often the only experience we have there is the homework we've done in class. So how do you avoid homework syndrome? Well, the first thing I want to remind you of is the importance of interiority. This is a concept I've gone into in a lot more detail in the first video of this series, which I will link to in the corner. But to give a short version, interiority is the process of allowing your reader's mind to merge with that of your POV character, to see what they see, think what they think, and feel what they feel. What interiority means in this specific case is that you have to consider each and every description through the perspective of your POV character. What is it that they see? What is it that they look at? What do they think? And how does it make them feel? And the starting point to this is asking whether the thing you're describing is familiar or unfamiliar to the character. When you're describing something unfamiliar, those tend to be the cases where you are much more cognizant of the importance of an effective description. These are the moments where your character meets someone new for the first time, or receives an important object, or sets foot in a strange new place. In these moments, it is very much kind of expected that you put the action on pause for a little bit and then give a proper, detailed description. Now, in terms of how you can actually structure the description, there are two fundamental approaches you can take, which are basically mirrors of each other. And these are thesis and proof, or facts and conclusion. Now, this is kind of veering into composition territory, but basically, in thesis and proof, you start with an overall impression that your character is getting, and then supply details as proof as to why your character is getting that impression. Whereas in facts and conclusion, you start with the details as a list of facts, and then draw a conclusion, which is the overall impression your character is getting. Now, whether you use one approach or the other, or maybe some combination of the two, really depends on the overall effect you're trying to accomplish, but as a baseline, I would say that if your character is getting a very strong first impression, then you would go with thesis and proof, whereas if they're trying to make up their minds, sitting on the fence, and they're maybe picking up some conflicting signals, then you would go with facts and conclusion. But this is by no means a clear-cut rule, and I will be going into more detail about the edge cases later. Okay, so what about when you're describing something familiar, and to begin with, why is it any different? Well, to illustrate, allow me to play you two clips from my point of view coming home to my living room, and then you can see for yourself which of them feels more like an actual human's train of thought.
This is my living room. This is where I keep my keys and wallet. These are my armchairs. They are across from the fireplace. That is my window. It is south-facing. Home at last. Okay, let me just drop these off. Oh man, Daddy needs a drink. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me just plug this in first. Create some semblance of warmth in here. Oh my God. Barely 5 p.m. and it's already pitch black. Okay, you know what? Let me just sit down. Oh, there we go. That's better.
Now, what you may notice is that both of those clips touched on the exact same things. The spot where I leave my keys, the armchairs, the fireplace, the window. The difference is that in the first one, I simply acknowledged the existence of those things, whereas in the second one, I focused on my interactions with them. If you remember from the first video, the ground rule of interiority is that the things you describe are the things your character is paying attention to, and the reason this is important is because the more familiar we are with something, the less attention we pay to it, at least in terms of how it looks, or just the fact that it's there. When I come home, I don't acknowledge that, yes, all my furniture is still here. I just come home and I do stuff with them. Describing through interaction is a very powerful way of conveying familiarity because it basically implies that the existence of the things is a given, at least to the character. When I come home to my living room and start fiddling with my things without even thinking about it, that says that this is a space where I feel comfortable and confident to do so. Now, there is one very specific case where you have to describe the one thing that your POV character is arguably the most familiar with, and that is their own appearance. There is a very informative and highly entertaining book called How Not to Write a Novel by Howard Mittelmark and Sandra Newman, which I can definitely recommend that you read. And this has an entire segment dedicated to the problems of describing your main character, one of them being what they call the "what color am I" trope, which is basically when the main character has to stand in front of a mirror and study their own appearance to know what they look like. And the reason these descriptions don't work is precisely because of what I mentioned earlier. We do not pay attention to things we are familiar with. When I look in the mirror, I don't stop to acknowledge that I still have walnut-colored hair, sea green eyes, and a forehead you could land an airliner on. Now, if you're an inexperienced writer, this may make you feel like there is no way to include the most important description of your entire book, and to that I can say two things. Number one, it's not actually that important. There's a book called Blood on Snow by the Norwegian author Jo Nesbø, which is written from a first-person perspective, and the main character makes absolutely no mention of his appearance up until the very end, and even then he only says, "Yeah, I look pretty average." I can understand that the appearance of your main character is very important to you, but readers don't actually care that much. As long as you give them a gender and an approximate age, they can fill in a lot of blanks. And the second thing I can say to you is about how to include additional details about your character. One thing you can do is, as mentioned before, to focus on interaction. If you say that your character ties up her hair, then we know that she has long hair. In addition to this, you can absolutely stand your character in front of a mirror, but don't make them focus on things that are readily apparent. When we look into a mirror, we don't usually do it to bask in our own appearance. We are trying to make sure everything is all right, so we look for flaws. Is my mustache askew? Is my hair looking weird? Is there a pimple on my face? Things like that. And once again, by describing how your character interacts with these features, by straightening their mustache or powdering their hair, you can implicitly convey their existence or their certain qualities. I do want to briefly circle back to our first topic of describing unfamiliar things, because the principle of describing through interaction can still be applied there, only in a slightly different and less direct way. What I mean is that when you're describing a room, for example, instead of, or in addition to listing the things that are there, you can mention what some of those things are doing, even if it's just completely passive. So instead of saying, "There was a fireplace in the corner," you can say, "The fireplace in the corner filled the room with a warm glow." And that, once again, will imply that the fireplace is there. So basically, instead of saying that the thing is there, say something about the thing. So, what do you think? Was any of that useful? Was there something I missed? Was there something I should have gone into in more detail? By all means, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. And until then, stay tuned.